Хочу запросити до слова Боба.
I would like to invite Bob to the presentation.
Так, видно?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Bob ECKHART. I'm from the United States. I'm currently living and working in Moldova, although actually I'm currently in England. So I apologize for the technical difficulties, and I'd just like to talk to you for a few minutes. Thank you for inviting me about the future of education. And so I don't know if you're familiar with a popular movie from the 1980s. Probably some of you weren't born yet, but there was a very famous movie called Back to the Future. And one of my last slides will refer to that. But the title of my presentation is Back to the Future, Teaching in the 21st Century and Asking the Right Questions to Get the Right Answers. So the first question that most people would ask is, what does the school of the future look like? This is something that we've been talking about and considering for 50 years or more, 100 years. People have always thought this. The slide you see is a graphic from a book a story from the 1950s, where the students did not go to school. The school came to them. They had a robot teacher who had a screen that was pretty much like an iPad, and the teacher was basically an AI model. It calculated what your next lesson should be based on how well you understood your current lesson, and it operated almost like a Duolingo or an AI platform. But one of the fallacies in the next slide that this story pointed out was something as simple as age-based grade levels. So if we go to the next slide, you see where the little girl is talking to her brother, explaining how, isn't it weird that everybody in the same age is presumed to be at the same level, and then we promote them based on their age. So I think if we're going to talk about education of the future, we need to challenge every assumption we have about how education works. Okay, so this was a very popular TV show in the 1960s called The Jetsons, and it portrayed a family, a space age family, and the little boy, you see him, the family's jetting through the sky in their personal aircraft, and then the little boy goes in his own module to his school. So in the next slide, you can see in the 1960s, they imagined a school that looked very much like the current schools we have. You know, if you look at those schools, even though they're floating in space, you still recognize them as a school. They're not unfamiliar to you. They haven't changed the concept. They've just modernized the concept. So if you ask me what the school of the future looks like, this is what I would tell you. I think the school of the future looks like a smartphone connected to YouTube or any other platform. You know, this has been the single greatest technological advancement of our lifetime. And if you ask me, YouTube is the single greatest curriculum ever developed. So in the next slide, you see a little story that I usually tell about my mother, but I'll save you the time. My mother, who's 80, now she's 85. This was a couple years ago. She lives by herself, and she was having a little problem with her plumbing. And she sent me that text message like, hey, I'm having a problem. And what that really meant was, can you come over here and fix it? And it was late at night. I didn't want to go fix it. And so I thought I'll just go there tomorrow. Well, the truth is, my mother at 85 years old got onto YouTube and watched a video about how to fix a toilet. And she did it herself with her own two hands. It was a 90-second video. So I don't know if this is how you live your life yet, but if you ever need to do anything, like just yesterday, I needed to know how to fix the battery on an electronic bicycle. I went to YouTube and I watched a video about how to do it. So this slide is about the Pythagorean theorem. Probably across the world today, there are 10,000 math teachers teaching the Pythagorean theorem. There are probably 10,000 math teachers standing in front of a classroom and teaching their students that a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That is phenomenally redundant and unnecessary. Even for a single math teacher, there's a single math teacher who might be teaching the Pythagorean theorem 3 times today or 4 times today, the same lesson. And every year, the teacher teaches that lesson today. So over the course of their career, they teach that lesson 120 times. It's simply not necessary at this point in the evolution of education, given that everything learners need to learn is on YouTube, that individual teachers stand in front of classrooms and teach the same exact lesson. In the next slide, it's a reminder. This is a reminder that learning is the product of learners, the activity of learners. Learning is not the product of teaching. Learning is the product of the activity of learners. So we need to create the activities that allow the learners to learn. Instead of thinking we need to teach them, we need to let them learn and promote and foster and coach. We need to coach them through learning. Now, the next quote is from one of my personal heroes, Noam Chomsky, a linguist. If you're teaching today how you were teaching 5 years ago, either the field is dead or you are. We're simply not living in a world where we can continue to do the same things every week, every month, every year that we've always done. The world has radically changed. Educators, education, teaching, and learning has to also radically transform itself. So here's one example. For me, in the next slide, you'll see I'm a writing teacher. For 20 or more years, I've taught writing. And now, as of November of 2022, here comes ChatGPT. So what does that mean to me as someone who teaches writing? You know, writing can be broken down into a couple different tasks, really. Grammar, punctuation, syntax, mechanical aspects. I think ChatGPT will provide that component. And I can concentrate on the other aspect. Writing is an expression of ideas. So if I use ChatGPT to its own advantage, it can transform my approach as a writing teacher. Okay, so now you'll see a little activity. Maybe you've seen this before. This is called the 9 dots activity. The activity is for you to connect the 9 dots in 4 straight lines without lifting your pencil. You can kind of think about how you might do it. The truth is, I've never met anyone who did this successfully on their own.
Не вийде.
And the reason that no one gets it successfully on their own is that I did not get it either. We impose limits and rules on ourselves that don't exist. So if you look at the solution is incredibly easy. You know, everything is easy when you know how to do it. So go ahead and reveal the solution in the next slide. The solution is to go outside the box. But none of us would do that because we have internalized these rules of staying inside the box, coloring inside the lines. So we have rules on ourselves about what we think the future of schools are that are not imposed on us. The truth is, we can make the rules. We can work with the heads of schools. We can work with ministries of education. We can transform education. So let's return to the question. What does the future of schools look like? What does the school of the future look like? What do classrooms of the future look like? What will textbooks of the future look like? So at the very beginning, my presentation is titled, Asking the Right Questions to Get the Right Answers. If you are asking those questions, what does the school of the future look like? What do classrooms of the future look like? What will textbooks of the future look like? If you're asking those questions, those are the wrong questions. Maybe the school of the future doesn't look like a school at all. When you ask that question, you presume the school of the future will be a school. So look at the slide on the left. Those people 200 years ago were asking themselves, how can we make a horse that goes faster? How can we make the horse go further? The solution wasn't a faster horse. The solution for travel was an airplane. If we look next slide, people who
Хвилинку має відновитися зв'язок.
Може, погортайте презентацію, так, щоб прочитати.
Okay, people who lived in wooden houses were trying to figure out how to make bigger houses out of wood, how to make better houses out of wood. And the truth was, you don't need bigger or better houses out of wood. You need to transform housing. So now look at schools. How is it possible that in the last 200 years, everything in the world around us has changed radically, except for schools? The world has changed. We are no longer producing workers for the Industrial Revolution. Workers need to learn how to work individually. Workers need to learn how to work collaboratively. So now we go back to the future. One of the most memorable lines of Back to the Future is right at the end when the young boy says to the doc, "Doc, you need to back up. we need more road. The car won't go fast enough. We need to back up. And the doctor tells the boy, where we're going, we don't need roads. So I'll close with a metaphor for being a teacher. Being a teacher in the 21st century is like the man in the red coat at the bottom of the photo. He's the coach. He doesn't play the game. He doesn't score the goals. He doesn't kick the ball. He coaches the players. He trains the players. The players play the game. The coach is on the sidelines. The coach is no longer the sage on the stage. The coach is the guide on the side. So finally, look at the picture on the left. A caterpillar. If I told that caterpillar that over the course of a few weeks, he would transform himself into a butterfly and fly away, the caterpillar wouldn't believe me. I don't know if you would believe me if I told you that that caterpillar on the left would transform itself into that majestic butterfly and fly away. I don't think you'd believe me. I don't think you'd believe me if I told you, if I told the caterpillar he could fly, that caterpillar wouldn't believe me. But what I'm telling you, what I tell educators and school theorists all over the world, is that we need to transform education. We need to transform education the way that that caterpillar transforms itself into a butterfly. Thank you very much. You have my contact
Thank you,
information.
Bob.
There's my contact
It was
information on the left.
interesting. Це дуже емоційно, дуже цікаво і супер. Дякуємо, Боб. Дякуємо.
Thank you, Bob. This was very emotional, impressive, and really interesting. And there are also some questions. If you can see them in the chat, please, you can answer them right now. And I will also have another question that I'm going to announce. So can you see the
I see 5 questions that appear to be in Ukrainian.
There is one in English.
Can you read it to me?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Thanks, Mr. Bob. Interesting report. Your opinion. Does communication with peers and extracurricular education affect the student's level of knowledge? Is it still IT technology now?
Yes, I think it's imperative that learners come together. But they might be coming together virtually. They might be coming together asynchronously. But I do feel that the purpose of an educator is to ask learners to do things they can't do individually. So when we bring students into a classroom and have them sit in a chair in rows and raise their hand when they have a question and listen to a lecture, that is not something they need to physically report to a classroom to do. So let's create. Let's create.
I can translate.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I cannot memorize everything. Bob каже, що для нас це дійсно необхідно мати студентам змогу комунікувати між собою, тому що є речі, які ми не можемо їх навчити, і те, що вони приходять фізично в клас, і ми питаємо їх піднімати руки, це не те, що ми маємо робити. So could you please repeat the last question, the last sentence that you said after the physically reporting?
Educators need to create an activity-based environment where learners are doing things they can't do individually.
Освітянам необхідно створити такий простір, який будується на активності, де учні зможуть робити те, що вони не можуть зробити поодинці, а зможуть робити разом за допомогою викладача. Yes, I translated this.
Thank you.
Next question. So a well-trained neural network can greatly improve our lives and help us solve problems. But both humans and artificial intelligence can make mistakes. Do you think there's a need for some form of control?
Yes, absolutely. I think AI has a limited potential. So the example I gave with writing was the mechanical part. AI will never replicate the cerebral part.
The what part, sorry?
The mental, the ideas.
Так, звісно, але я вважаю, що штучний інтелект не зможе ніяким чином замінити людину і замінити цю ментальну нашу розумову частину. Thank you.
Так, дякуємо, Єлизавета, і вам за допомогу. Дякуємо, Боб.